What's going on? Sevelocity coming at you during the week. Here to talk some basketball, some minor reactions. Couple things happened this week. We had Game 5 of the Clippers versus the Suns. Clippers took Game 5. Now they're down 3-2. Ty Lue is the king of coming back down from a series, so we all know that. Bucks versus Hawks. Bucks lost game 4. Now it is 2-2. No Trae Young for the Hawks. However, now there is no Giannis for the Bucks. Uh, Interesting dynamic. Kind of disappointed. That series could have been way better if all the stars were playing. I also can't wait to talk about Kendrick Perkins and how much of a fool he is when it comes to talking sports instead of playing it. Um, Now, without further ado, let's talk some Suns Clippers and playoff P. So, the man shot 15 to 20. Oh, would you like to say anything before we get started?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, playoff P, Paul George, the man himself, and not George Paul. Um, 15 to 20, 40 points or 41 points. I believe he had 8 rebounds. Let me double check here. He had 13 rebounds and 6 assists and only 2 fouls in 41 minutes. Perfect game from the guy himself. No more slander for him. I don't want to hear it anymore. In a series that he has no business being close in. Um, he's playing well. Terrence Mann played again a majority of the game. He started. He only had 4 points, but he did start, and they did win again. Um, Pat Bev also started. Marcus Morris played well, 22 points. He shot well most of the game. Reggie Jackson had 23. He's playing like his consistent self this playoff series. Now, the last thing I wanted to highlight in regards to the Clippers is the man himself, DeMarcus Cousins, playing 11 minutes, shooting 7 of 12, and getting 15 points. And the biggest stat of them all, he only had 1 foul. He didn't have 5 fouls in 5 minutes. He had 1 foul in 15. So that is great news. Playing like the former Boogie Cousins. If they want to win, he's going to probably have to keep it up. Is there anything else I wanted to note?
DeAndre Ayton's performances lately.
Uh, I also wanted to note Zubac did not play at all, which is interesting. He's not even in the lineup. So they decided to go small here, and it worked. Batum came off the bench, had 30 minutes. DeAndre Ayton is going to get paid. I'm going to say that right now. He only had 10 points, 11 rebounds, but he still played decent. He shot 5 and 9. I think the bigger issue was I don't even think it was necessarily Chris Paul or Devin Booker. They both one shot 9 to 22, 31 points. That was Devin Booker. Chris Paul shot 8 to 19, 22 points. So 22 and 31 points. 8 assists, 3 assists, 4 rebounds, and 3 rebounds. Not a bad performance. I think the biggest problem was the lack of bench play for them. I mean, uh, they got 1 of 4 from Sarkic. Um, Cameron Johnson played pretty well. He had 14 points. Again, Cameron Payne's not playing a lot, which I think is a slight concern. But I will note Cameron Johnson also had 4 fouls in 20 minutes. So I will say that we are not getting a good enough performance from the teammates. I think 31 and 22 from Chris Paul and Booker are pretty good. I mean, I don't think Eaton got the ball enough either because he only shot 9 shots and he made most of them. I think though your biggest problem is you're not giving the ball to Jay Crowder and Miles Bridges at all. So I think that, or I'm sorry, McCall Bridges. I think both of them could use the ball a little bit more, and I don't think that Devin Booker and Chris Paul necessarily need to put the game on their back. And also Eaton needs to get into the offense a bit more. It's just 2 losses though so far in a row. Let's not make it 3 though and blow the game or blow the series and go down or tie 3-3. Still think the Suns will be fine. Because I don't think Paul George can do this every game. I don't think the only reason they made it the Clippers won this game is because Paul George had 40 points. He shot 75%. I don't think the Suns necessarily played bad. It was just Paul George played spectacular. So I don't think that can last much longer. He's going to have a bad game eventually. It's just a matter of whether guys like Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson, DeMarcus Cousins now, Terrence Mann can carry him out of a rough game if he has one. But if he stays consistent, that's great. I just think it's unlikely. Um, would you like anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just find this Clippers team really interesting. Like obviously before we talked about what we think is different having Kawhi in the lineup and not. I just find it so weird that they're literally just scratching and clawing, like they're just digging in essentially in a junkyard, scratching for what they have on whatever they have on the roster, like the remnants of Boogie Cousins, for example, and it's working for them. Like Kawhi going out, just scratching and clawing for, all right, we need a piece of this, need a piece of that, and that's a credit to Ty Lue. Like they're making it work. Like
They're
it's
shifting the lineup
incredible.
so much. Like Rondo didn't even get a minute this game.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure, and they won.
But I think we should also say this too. I think the Clippers are also, even with whether with or without Kawhi, they're proving to be a team that thrives when there's not much expectation on them. Because there were much more expectation on them last year.
Yeah,
Like even though like everyone was saying, well, with LeBron James, I need team that has expectations. But everyone was saying, oh, the Lakers are in trouble, the Clippers are in town. So there was expectation right there. Everyone, including you and I'm pretty sure, saw that the Clippers were the better all around team from the starters to the bench to coaching, like everywhere. And they folded then. Now this year, many people in the media said pretty much forgot about the Clippers. Like we essentially dismissed them, saying, "Yeah, last year was the year." Like, no, no, you just disappointed. We're not even going to think about you
yeah,
now.
swept them under the rug.
Yeah, swept them under the rug, and now they're starting to exceed. Like, I'm not going to say exceed expectations compared to like what we think they really should potentially accomplish because we saw them as a championship contending team, but they're exceeding the expectation for this year, meaning our expectations just were pretty much gone.
Now, I don't think I'll say anything blasphemous like that Kawhi would make them worse or anything, but I think that with Kawhi and Leonard and the rest of the team, I think there was a lack of trust from Kawhi Leonard's side. Like I feel like he felt like he had to do almost everything. Like you saw Paul George choke in the playoffs last year. And, I don't think Kawhi Leonard played his best basketball either last year. But like I feel like you saw Kawhi Leonard lose a sense of trust in the rest of his team. So I'm curious to see if, like with him watching now and the way certain players are playing, like Reggie Jackson or even Marcus Morris, if he's starting to gain like a sense of trust for those guys, especially Paul George.
But what I wonder if it's even really necessarily coming from a place of trust or just flat out indifference. Because like I've heard like from listening to First Take, and we know these guys like they have their sources like around the league, much better sources than we'd ever have. At least for now, you never know. That people have said that Kawhi in the locker room, it's not that he's like a jerk to teammates or anything, but it's like he keeps himself in even on the court. That's why they say he's not a leader. Like he's a type of guy that I'm gonna go in and do my job and just whatever happens happens. So like that sense of indifference might be the thing.
Yeah,
He's out there. He's in a way almost dismissive of everyone else around and saying, "I know I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You guys just figure it out."
it's up to you to do what you're gonna do. Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
that kind of deteriorates chemistry too. So
yeah,
I I definitely think that while Kawhi Leonard's injury in general is a bad thing, I think that it could help them grow in the future, potentially for next season, or who knows if they make the finals and he plays this year, um, which we don't know. He's has a sprained knee now. It was suspected
yeah.
torn ACL, now it's a sprained knee. Who knows if he's going to come back? But if he does, it's I'm curious to see if the team chemistry works any different.
Yeah. Load manage.
Yeah, all that load
But
management.
I also got to put this out there. Like, I would say this coming from a place of a LeBron fan. I'm sure some of you listening to this saying, "Oh, LeBron fans ain't at it again." I don't care, but I just find it interesting how I know I said it. Well, I said, I wonder are the Clippers better without Kawhi? But I said that jokingly because I'm not. I don't totally believe that. But the Lakers, let's say they were going on like a pretty tough playoff run, like looking impressive without LeBron on the court with just AD. I think you and I both know
Where those
the
conversations would
narrative. It
win?
would not
Yeah.
have been subtle at all. It would
No.
have been loud. Everyone said the king is gone. The
Yep.
team is better
Yeah.
without him. I don't want to hear LeBron make his teammates better. He makes
Yeah.
everyone worse.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a prediction for you that if the Suns lose Game 6, they're gonna lose the series. I think that they blow a 3-1 lead if they lose Game 6.
So you think they're essentially swapping roles with the Clippers?
Yep, yep, I am. Because I think that the Suns are very capable of winning, but if they don't win in LA, I think that the amount of motivation and hype that's going to be around the Clippers to win and reverse into a blowing a 3-1 to reversing a 3-1 lead after blowing one last year. I think that is enough hype in itself to pump them up to play a really good game in Game 7. So you better not lose Game 6 in LA.
All I know is I'm done making predictions because this year, like I'm telling you, these odd numbers. This year just been L after L after L for me. So I'm just gonna roll with whatever you say in terms of predictions.
Um, Now on to Bucks and Hawks. So as we both know, Trae Young was already out. I believe he injured his ankle. Um,
Yeah,
and Giannis got hurt mid-game, and now he is out and most likely doubtful for Game 5. So tied 2-2, and it's going back to Milwaukee. Um, I'm gonna be honest with you. If both Trae Young and Giannis are out, I think that going back to Milwaukee is going to hurt Milwaukee. It's really tough that you're going to be missing Giannis at your home court. I think I know Trae Young's important, but when you take both the star players away and now you're going to play on your home court, I think it's almost a disadvantage. You'd rather get the away game over with without your star player, even if you're about to lose it. I think it's going to be really tough to win uh, in Milwaukee without Giannis, especially when people like Kendrick Perkins are saying that Chris Middleton is the Batman of the team and Giannis is the Robin. That's crazy because last time I checked, you're making all this hype. He had 15 points in the first game. Chris Middleton shot 0 of 9 from 3-point range, right? Whatever. Believe he had 20 in the second game. Giannis outscored him in both game 1 and game 2. And then we go to game 3 or I'm sorry, we go to game 4. um, Chris Middleton shoots. Chris Middleton played well in Game 3, and that's where he gets all the hype from. I understand. That's where Kendrick Perkins goes. He's a legend. He's the best. Then we go to Game 4, and he shoots 0 of 7 again from three. So, and I'm sorry, he had. Let me double check this. Oh, oh, he had 2 minutes, or he had 2 points less than Giannis, and he played 20 minutes more. That's crazy. That's crazy how that works because Giannis got hurt. He had a hyperextended knee. And then Mr. Chris Middleton steps up and scores 16 points and goes 0-7 from three. And then, wait, it gets better. Drew Holiday. He blames Drew Holiday for everything, right? It's all Drew Holiday. Chris Middleton's the GOAT, and Drew Holiday is a problem, and Giannis is Robin. Drew Holiday had 33 in the first game, and I'm pretty sure he had 25 plus in the second game. I'm not sure about the third game. I think that's when we started putting accusations that he's a bad player out there. And then game 4, oh, he shot the same percentage, but he outscored Chris Middleton. Oh, and he had more assists too. Oh, and only 3 less rebounds as a point guard. I don't want to hear any more Drew Holiday slander for the amount of defense and two-way gameplay that he's put up. He had no business putting up 30 points. No one anticipated that, and he did anyway. And they helped win 2 of these games. I'm going to say Chris Middleton helped them win one of these games, but he has easily helped in losing 2 of the games that they've lost. 2 out of 2 of the games they've lost. He has been the primary reason they have lost both those games to the Hawks. I cannot understand how he's getting so much praise from Kendrick Perkins. And I'm not a Chris Middleton hater. He's super inconsistent. I get it. One day he puts up 40, another day he puts up 15. But the Giannis slander coming from Kendrick Perkins is driving me absolutely crazy. That's all I have to say. You may have the floor. Speak what you want.
I think of Giannis hype. Like I think when we texted, because I didn't listen to that first episode, but I'm assuming that it probably stemming from what was happening in the Heat and Brooklyn Nets series, where we both saw that Chris Middleton was essentially playing more as a number one option, while Giannis was playing a more reserve role, except for of course Game Seven against Brooklyn. But seeing the success Milwaukee had at running the offense through Middleton more, so maybe Perkin was his head was just stuck in that moment and just carrying it over into the Hawks series. But yeah, like in this Hawks series, Giannis to me has been clearly the best player on the Bucks.
And you know what?
It never even entered my mind that Middleton was
Exactly.
better than Jan. Even despite Middleton, like I said, that we both agreed that Middleton were playing better than Giannis in the Miami series and whatnot. Yeah, but still, regardless, I know
Because
Giannis is a
yeah,
way better player than Chris Middleton.
and
So that's a complete utter blasphemy right there.
and the wildest part is, he gets back on Twitter after this last showing where he goes 0-7. He doesn't say, "Oh, Chris Middleton, you had a bad game. What are you doing?" No, no. He goes and he says, "Cam Reddish is one of the best defenders I've seen come out of college. He locked down Chris Middleton." And to Cam Reddish's credit, he played well. He played really well. He defended well. But no
He, yeah.
defender gets credit for locking down a star player. The star player gets blamed for having a bad game. So I don't want to hear it. You're going to hold
Well,
him
but
to the
my
same standard.
Well, no, but my point is this though. Yeah, Cam Reddish locking out Chris Middleton. That's an embarrassment on Middleton. Like a guy like Chris Middleton, like an all-star, a star. If you're not getting locked down by like a generational defenders like a Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, those kind of defenders, no, hell
But like
no, that's not acceptable.
any star player, like even if like what's a good okay, we'll talk Giannis since that he already called him the Robin. If Giannis goes against Anthony Davis, and let's say he shoots a bad percentage, you
Hmm.
still expect him to at least have 20, right? Yeah, right. You expect him to at least score 20,
Yeah,
even if they lose. I'm sorry, he
yeah.
scored under 15 to Cam Reddish, who comes off the bench and is not near, star talent yet. At least yet. I'm not gonna flame him because I know he's pretty young. I'm just saying,
Even
that's
even worse. He's so young and you're a seasoned veteran
you're
and you're getting locked down by that
yeah,
guy.
you're holding Giannis to this ridiculous standard where he's Robin no matter what he does. He could put up 30 to 40 against Kevin Durant and help beat them in that series in what is basically a shootout. But the second Chris Middleton goes and puts up 15, it's the defender. It's not his fault. It's all the defender. He doesn't get any blame for that. It's ridiculous. It's a load of crap.
Honestly, and I think there could even be a somewhat fair argument that Drew Holiday might be better than Chris Middleton
Drew Holiday,
overall.
I think I
Overall,
think
like they're very comparable.
I think Chris Middleton is still the better player, but Drew Holiday is having the better performance in the series, and I will hold that to I'll bring that to my death that Drew
Yeah,
Holiday is outperforming Chris Middleton at least for this
yeah.
series. He has done more to help them win than Chris Middleton has done, and Chris Middleton has done more to help this team lose than he has done to win. So I'm tired of the excuses for Chris Middleton. He's a great player, he's an all-star player, but he has to play like that consistently. And for Kendrick Perkins to give him free outs 24/7, I get it. Kendrick Perkins was a pretty good basketball player in the NBA, but you need to learn how to analyze because that's ridiculous because no other person sees it that way.
Yeah. It's funny that the Milwaukee game. It made me want to transition into like the next topic, like how injuries has just been like a tragedy overall this year. I don't know if you remember way back in early in the season. Remember LeBron was upset when they had decided to start
Yeah,
the NBA season. I think it
the
was like around Christmas time,
the
something
sh-
like that.
the shortest period in any sport
Yeah,
history between the
yeah,
previous season and next season. I believe it was like 75 days, which is like nothing.
yeah. And like I can understand like in some cases like for people like LeBron, the guys on the Lakers, and he definitely the guys who made it to the finals. We could even just throw the bubble team in there, all the bubble team for the short break, but at the same time, all those other teams that didn't even get to play in the bubble, like that was the longest break they've ever had.
Yeah.
Like the Knicks, for example. So, but taking into account what the players had to endure in the bubble, I remember LeBron was totally against it. Like he didn't like it. Plus, I believe at first they had some agreement with Adam Silver and like the higher ups in the NBA that the season would start like at a later date. But then they kind of pushed it on them to start earlier, like last second. So I remember guys like LeBron and other players were upset about that.
I
So I find that interesting. So I just think that's an interesting correlation.
I have an interesting question for you. Do you think that there was a direct benefit to the people who missed the playoffs or got eliminated in the very early stage of the playoffs for the next season, being that they got basically a free month off compared to the people that played in the bubble? Like, like the Lakers and the Heat had to prepare for the season way quicker than guys that already got eliminated and already start preparing for next season, like the month before. Do you think that was substantial? Because like you had guys like the
So
Suns didn't make the playoffs,
yeah,
so the Suns had a
yeah,
lot of preparation.
yeah. I was gonna say to an extent, like I think what we have to consider too, teams like the Lakers, we gotta look at the individual players, like guys like LeBron who are his age, they need the rest. They
Yeah.
need the rest. So it's gonna hurt them. The younger guys, it wouldn't not as much, but still that Heat team. They had yeah, they definitely needed the rest as well because the injuries they had. Goran Dragic was injured, Bam was injured, and we saw Jimmy like play one of the greatest individual NBA final performances ever. We saw how winded he was from a game to game basis,
Well, and
and and then coming back, yeah, I think it was kind of rushed because we saw that how many issues came up too in terms of the COVID protocol. Like many players, they had to sit in and out of games. Games, even I forgot about that too. Games having to get postponed. Like the beginning of the season was such a big mess.
like
But
it's I don't
I
know.
don't know if I can really call it. I think it's a case by case in terms of advantage versus disadvantage.
I think the direct injuries killed it too because like when you talk about, well, I think a good example is like Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
Someone who went pretty deep into the playoffs, and then he's forced to play 40 minutes almost every game 70 days later, and then he tears his ACL halfway through the season. I think that's a direct reason from such a short break. Like, he's getting no rest, and the less rest you get, the easier it is to get injured. But
Hmm.
for I'm trying to think of the main topic I wanted to kind of say with that is like when you have guys that get injured, I don't know, the previous season, like the bubble year, and like they like let's say they tear their ACL in the bubble year too. Like this isn't Jamal because he did that this year. But like in the bubble year, if you tear your ACL or if you have a substantial injury, usually you're mounted that 3 months over the summer too for rehabilitation or or a better chance of returning for the full length of the season. Now with that 70-day period, or I think it's 3 or 4 months you get for a break. Now you have 2 months instead, and now you're cutting into your return time. So you're either going to have to rush a return if you want to play with your team, or you're going to have to skip a whole nother year, and that also in a sense deteriorates your potential of getting a better contract too because you can't play another year. It could be your contract year. You could be losing on big salary for some of the players.
Yeah.
It's I mean that might be overanalyzing it, but I know people who are on their contract years in the bubble year or the year after the bubble year who might have been injured the year before didn't get the chance to play or play as much and might have lost, hundreds of thousands if not millions of dollars in their contract because they didn't get to prove the player that they are.
Hmm.
So I think that it was a mistake by the NBA, but I think almost everyone knew that, and I think a lot of people took that as the NBA was trying to make money. Um,
Yeah.
but I
Which
definitely, I would have,
even in that regard, I can understand. Because I mean, the league did lose like a lot of revenue, and like the reason why the players have these astronomical contracts is because of
is
how
because
rich
of,
NBA has
yeah, the
become
revenue.
over time. get more viewership like from around the world, like as the league expands.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think many people like I've even tried to explain to them that they completely forget about. Like the reason why LeBron, for example, was was on board with like the bubble being a thing and all of that was not to feed like his own pocket. Because like a guy like LeBron James, he could go like a
It's not
full five
necessary.
years without playing in the
Yeah.
NBA. He's fine. He's making more money off his endorsements with
Right.
Nike and whatnot. But the other players in the league, like I'll say the bottom.
Like the 10th, 11th, 12th man, they need the
Yeah,
money.
yeah, yeah. What can we call? What's a good percentage we could call? Could we call it like 70% the league, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're not making those astronomical contracts. First of all, their contracts they're more tentative. Like if they're not playing up to par at a certain point, the team could just decide to cut them and just not decide to reinstate them. And on top of that, I'm thinking even beyond the players. Like we look at the coaches and the officials as well. They need to get paid. And then even below that, the people who work in the analytics department, like the different staffs, their salaries are clearly aren't as high as the players are. Just like us, they have to pay their bills as well.
It's like
Like they're a part of the NBA as well.
it's almost like I think a good example is like imagine, we're at high school or something and COVID happens and we're told we're going to finish out the semester with, massive COVID regulations. But to make up for lost time, we're going to start school in July right after, May. Like you're going to piss off a lot of people. Like
Yeah.
it's unfair. So I think what the NBA should have did was similar to the lockout year, like 10 plus years ago. They should have reduced the games to, like 60 or something like that. Play less games and push the season back a month or
Well,
two. Like just do
well, they did reduce it to 72, but it could have reduced more.
10
Yeah,
games. Come on.
yeah.
It should have been like 20 games, and then it should have went. And that should have been at the very season start. Like you get rid of the first 20 games, so you get an extra month or so at least. So it would be almost normal
Mhm,
preparation. But they kind of took that away from the players. And as you can see, there's a direct correlation with the injuries now.
mhm,
And I know there's a lot of people who don't believe the injuries are from that. Like that you should be capable of having your body in that shape. But I don't agree with that. I don't think that any person's body, whether it be LeBron James or my body, should be put through that much, you know, force on the court in such a short period of time because you're gonna get injured. I mean, I'm gonna pull a hamstring the second I get out on the court with the way I'm in shape. But like, even LeBron, who's 30, what, 36,
yeah.
there's, of course he's gonna get hurt. It's there. No one can play that much.
And what people forget too. Like they first of all, they just take athletes like for granted overall.
Yeah,
Like just because we see how tough they are and how they can play like a certain way, especially the phenomenal athletes that are out there at such a high level and so consistently, it's easy for people to forget that even if they're not necessarily like going 100% every night, they're still putting
yeah,
out a lot of effort. Because just like us, if we like, as you said, we're out of shape right now. We go play basketball today, we'll be sore and aching the
yeah,
next day. That doesn't go away just when you're in shape. That's happening to the players on a continuous basis, especially the older players like LeBron. But they're toughing it out and powering through it.
yeah.
And I think it's also this as well. And I'm gonna here point my finger at for football fans, not you of course, but there's this stigma that just because it's not like full
Full
well
contact.
full
Yeah,
contact
yeah,
sport. Well, I guess basketball is full contact to an extent because posting up or whatnot. But because you're not out there tackling each other, that the players there's no wear and tear going on in their body.
yeah.
Like people forget the running and jumping on a hard wood. First of all, it's so continuous back and forth. Like it takes a lot
Yeah.
out of them.
And like understand the football guys, like as much contact as they do it for 16 weeks or 17 weeks
Mm,
with a bye week. It's not,
yeah,
and so it's 16 games. It's not 72 games. It's not 80 games.
yeah.
So
And on
and I'm
top
not
of that,
saying one's harder than
they
the other. I'm just saying it's
yeah,
for
it's
their,
different.
yeah, for the contact they're doing, they're playing what they feel is the proportional amount of game time, and same with the
Mm.
NBA. So
And also taking into account football guys. They either whether you're on the defense or offensive side, you only play half the game.
Yeah. So it's no one's knocking on football or basketball. It's just it's
Yeah,
completely different aspects, and they can't really be compared in terms of injury, rest, and how often they should be playing. Cause and
yeah,
and the same goes with baseball. They play like 150 games. It's difficult to analyze. With Kawhi Leonard, I mean, you see with even Kawhi Leonard, he could take off half of this year, and he's still getting hurt. So
yeah.
obviously, no one wants to get hurt. I feel bad for
Yeah.
Kawhi. It's just I know that part of it was a little bit of load management too trickled in there, and now we see he's hurt too. So like even with the little bit of rest he had, it's he's getting injured too. So it's a lot of star players, and and I think that you're killing part of the viewership too with that when all of your star players are getting hurt, because that's why everyone watches the game. It's to see the star players play. No one's going out to go watch. I don't go to watch the Hawks versus Bucks to watch Danilo Gallinari and Brooke Lopez. Like I watch it for Giannis and Trae Young, and now
Hmm.
those guys are missing. So I'm disappointed, and I think it's a direct correlation from the NBA's inability to give their players rest this year. And I hope that this offseason being back to a normal pace, which is I think they were trying to do, they were just trying to get back to the normal calendar year. I think it might be a better because everyone will get their normal breaks, but it's the sacrifice it took for the amount of players' injuries to get to this point hurts. So that's all I gotta say. Um, you got anything you want to add to that?
Nope.
All right. Well, without further ado, game 6 tonight: Suns versus Clippers. No, I mean no Kawhi again. He's been doubtful, I think, every game. Uh, but I think they're not, ruling him out completely yet for the playoffs. So regular matchup, no one out. I would expect that they're going to go with the same starting five Clippers. Marcus Morris playing in place of Zubac, and Terrence Mann playing in place of um,
Oh,
Nicholas
why?
Batum or
Oh.
or Kawhi. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say Suns finish the series tonight. I hope, because if they lose, they're out of this. I think they're gonna lose Game 7. Prediction before we hop off here.
Oh, all I gotta say is I am tired of these conference finals already. Just teams end your series so we can move on to the finals. Like, I'm sorry, like I just find the playoffs like so boring this year, and like injuries is a big part of it that hurt it too.
I think
So
you find it boring because LeBron's not there.
not true because I do recall saying the 2019 NBA playoffs was the most entertaining playoffs
What was it?
I've seen,
What was that?
despite the
Raptors
fact it had
Warriors.
significantly less viewers. Yet Toronto Warriors, that whole series, I think that was the best playoffs. I
It
see it
was.
from the first round all the way to the final round.
Well, there was nothing more cold than watching Kevin Durant come out after his injury and plan on playing, because you thought, I mean, when you watched
Mm,
that, you thought that the
mm,
Warriors were going to bring it back. Sad that he got hurt
yeah,
again, but it was
and
really cool to watch.
Clay shooting a free throw, basically on one leg,
Yeah.
and Kawhi is stabbing me in the heart
Yep.
with the Sixers. But yeah,
It was a good playoffs. I think this one's been good too. I just think that there's been a lot of injuries that have overshadowed it. So, I think
yeah,
everything would be different if we were watching Kawhi and Paul George versus CP3 and Devin Booker, and if we were watching Giannis and Chris Middleton versus Trae Young. Even having Hunter back for the Hawks would have been nice to see, and uh,
LeBron and AD healthy.
having AD and LeBron healthy, having Kyrie healthy, having James Harden healthy, just about everybody on the list. So,
Yep.
oh, and Jamal Murray. I won't leave him out of there either.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, without further ado, enjoy Game 6. We will catch you either sometime this week or on the weekend for a full episode. And have a good
Yeah,
rest of
and,
your night.
yeah, and Ev might get his wings.
Cannot wait.